Matt Miguez has plenty on his mind, and he's ready to share it with the world. It's time to hear the Miguez Mindset.
Welcome into a Friday edition of the Miguez Mindset right here on ESPN 103.7 Lafayette and 104.1 Lake Charles. Today, we're going to be talking about the Houston Astros, fresh off of the All-Star break, coming in at 50-41. And they've got an AL West matchup this weekend on the West Coast with Shohei Ohtani and the Los Angeles Angels. Brett Chancey, the host of Locked On Astros, is joining me to break down this series, talk about the first half, and maybe play a little bit of MLB GM. Brett, what's going on, man? How are you?
Man, I'm doing good. We're excited about the second half. For us in Locked On Astros, we always look forward to the second half because it typically means a playoff run. But this year, you've got a lot more horses that are in the barn ready to take off out of the chute. This is no longer a classic 4-team race. This is, if you're in just by a little bit, you've got a shot. So it's going to be a fun second half with this Houston Astros, and the AL West is going to be, I think, the Wild West in this second half.
Yeah, when you look at the first half of the season, the Texas Rangers, there was talk all offseason about how good they were going to be. But as lifelong Astros fans, we know with the Rangers, it's like, okay, we'll believe it when we see it. But the Texas Rangers have been really good in the first half of the season. And then another team in the AL that's kind of surprised me is how good the Tampa Bay Rays have been with Wander Franco and Randy Arozarena. Just kind of talk about the two teams that are kind of at the top of the AL right now, and then the Houston Astros still hanging around in the mix.
Yeah, with I think it's like 156 runs plus, run differential for the Rangers. Look, they went out and spent money, and I guess because we've gotten so used to where the Rangers have been,
right?
I didn't really go into really deep analysis, but when you start looking at their lineup is battle tested. Their lineup has world champions in it. They have playoff seasoned veterans. Not only that, they got Bruce Bochy. And look, it's not that I don't know who Bruce Bochy is or what he's done in his career, but this team and what they've done, it definitely has to have a positive residual effect on this organization because they went out and they kind of spent like the Mets, and their formulas worked where the Mets have really fallen flat on their face. So you got to tip your hat to the Rangers. And one thing that I've learned about this ball club is when a fan base seems to take everybody into they're just the other team. The Astros, they're professionals. And even though they took 3 or 4 from the Rangers recently, at the end of the day, it's what you do in October,
Right.
Kind of like the old line from Moneyball. Nobody cares if you don't win the last game. You can win all the games in the regular season. So the Rangers have done it. Look, they deserve respect. A month ago, I would have said, yeah, they're gonna fall off, I would say before the All-Star break, and they're still there. What I do like about this is the Astros are only 2 games back with all the injuries, with all the setbacks. With a lot of teams, they would already be done right now. So I like the fight this team has. We're on the precipice of guys coming back, but it's going to be fun. But I'll tell you this, watch out for the Mariners. The Mariners have been forgotten, and they're in a perfect position because no one's expecting them to do anything. They got hot towards the end of the first half. They took 3 or 4 from us, and the Rangers kind of leveled out. So my question is it going to be the Astros and Mariners? Is it going to be the Astros and Rangers? Is it going to be all 3? I think if it's all 3, it's going to make for a really, really, really fun second half.
Yeah, that'll definitely make things interesting. The Mariners were kind of that team that was the thorn in the Astros side last year, and they still are to an extent. But you brought up the Texas Rangers and you brought up Bruce Bochy. One thing that's interesting about Bruce is you talked about the career he's had, won a World Series with the Giants. How important is it to have a manager like that that's been at the highest level, knows what it takes to win for a franchise like the Rangers who just needed a little extra spark to be where they are now?
Well, I think it's phenomenal in the fact that he's won and he's lost, right? But to win at the highest level and to manage that club and do what he's done, he's seen the ups and the downs. He's seen the team at their highest highs and at their lowest lows. And he's the guy to where maybe a player is like, golly, I'm just not hitting really well. My average has dropped off. I can't even get on base to, hey, you know what? You got 8 other guys out there. Nathan Eovaldi, who's having a Cy Young type year. I mean, he is, by all intents and purposes, should be top 3 right now in that race. You got a pitcher that even if he has a game, Bochy's like, look, hey, Nathan, it's okay. I mean, he's managed some of the biggest personalities in the game over there on the West Coast. And he hasn't just been in San Francisco where he was able to win, but he really has seen baseball through different spectrums, through different time eras in this game. And he, to me, just comes across as a guy who sits back, chooses bubble gum, examines what's going on. And even if his team's down 9-1, I don't think I've ever seen that guy panic. So I think his ability to focus in the moment and understand the long game really helps the Rangers in that aspect.
Let's look at the Astros now, Brett. Like I mentioned, 50-41 starting the second half tonight against the Angels. One player that I want to focus on, and it's a guy that a lot of people have been talking about recently. It's Alex Bregman. You look at the first 2-3 years of his career, and he was the guy for the Astros, right? MVP type numbers. You could always depend on him to come up big. And over the last couple of years, and this year especially, when Yordan Alvarez went out with his injury and he was out 4 to 6 weeks, and Jose Altuve missed the first 2 months of the season, you wanted Alex Bregman to step up and be that guy. And he didn't. What's going on with Alex Bregman and how does he fix it?
That to me is one of the biggest mysteries. And I don't say that to avoid answering the question, because I think even for him, it's a mystery because look, he gets on base a ton. I mean, he still is like 3rd in the league in walks, and which is baffling to me. You can't say, well, he's getting a lot of crappy calls behind the plate, and that's why he's striking out. I mean, he has gone down looking quite a bit this year, and they've been marginal pitches. To me, see, the thing is, I don't think it's a physicality thing. I mean, he hasn't been the best with the glove this year, but I don't think he's injured. A couple of years ago, he went through 2 or 3 months of random soft tissue injuries, and even beat reporters were vocalizing, hey, the Astros aren't being honest with us. I think it's between the ears, to be honest with you. I've watched Alex Bregman from LSU to here, and I've told you guys on the radio, we actually lived in Zachary when he was in his 2 years at LSU. And I remember the first time I watched him play, I was like, I've never seen a player go that hard in the game. It was like, It was a game against like Maryland or something. I mean, it wasn't like they were fighting for the SEC title. I mean, this was like the beginning of the season. He was crushing it, right? But guys get older, things happen in your life. He's got a lot going on. He races horses off the field. He's got his salsa. He's a father now. I mean, I'm not saying that because life is happening, I'm kind of giving him a pass. But there's something mentally in this game that's not clicking, because with his swing as short as it is, you would think he would be able to either like raise his bat level, because he gets under a lot of stuff. He pops up a lot of things. I just think I don't know if it's a lack of confidence, because he never comes across as that. But if it's mechanical, they haven't fixed it. If it's mental, he's the only one that can fix it. And it is important that he gets started in the second half, because what did Jose Abreu do with Jordan's absence? He took off. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine if Bregman would have taken off with Tucker taking off and with Abreu taking off? There's no way the Rangers have a 2-game lead on the Astros at this point. So the only thing I can attribute it to is there's got to be something psychological And if it's not, it's got to be mechanical, and he just hasn't fixed it yet. So I'm hoping we find the skeleton key to unlock that door for the second half.
You know, we're 2.5 weeks away from the MLB trade deadline, and this is the time where a team like the Astros, second place in their division, still very much in the mix of things, is looking at their roster and going, okay, where can we get better? Where do we have a need? And with the injuries that the Astros have gone through this year, in your opinion, where is their biggest need, and what do they attack at the deadline?
Well, I agree with Dana Brown. Recently on the radio, he did say that if he could only improve one area of the Houston Astros, it would be to get a starting pitcher. The problem that he recognized that I think a lot of people need to realize is there are a lot of buyers at the table. Again, like I mentioned earlier, this isn't a 14 race. This is like a 14 team race. I mean, and the harvest is not very plentiful. Starting pitching is at a premium right now. Unfortunately, the reality of you getting a Dylan Cease or Corbin Burns is really a long shot because you don't have the farm system. The top farm systems are like the Orioles, the Rangers, the Rays. So, the Rangers can go out there and spend some capital to get somebody to help them. And I know everybody keeps saying we need a left-handed bat, and I somewhat agree with that. But I think their top priority is pitching, because if you have an offense that fires on all cylinders and you can back it up with the pitching that we've had, another World Series run is not out of the picture for the Houston Astros. So to me, starting pitching is key. Go get a Lucas Giolito. You don't have to get a frontline Dylan Cease. Go get a Lucas Giolito, put him in this, because Hunter Brown's had hiccups. We know JP France is a rookie. He's done great. Ronel Blanco's up and down. He only has, I think, one or two more passes where he can go back and forth. And then Urquidy, we don't know what he's going to be like when he comes back. So I think a starting pitcher should be their number one priority. And Dana Brown seems to have shifted from wanting a bat to wanting a pitcher right now.
You brought up Jose Urquidy. He and Yordan Alvarez beginning rehab assignments with the Space Cowboys tonight. How important is it going to be to get both of those guys back in the lineup? Because you talk about the importance of Yordan Alvarez. He's still top 3 on the team in RBIs, and he's been out for the last month and a half.
Yeah, I would say this guy is, if anybody is a spark for this team, it is Yordan Alvarez. And what you love about him is he's not your MLB is going to market him as Mr. Personality, right? He's not, he doesn't do the Fernando Tatis, the Jazz Chisholm, the Ronald Acuna Jr. type of celebrating when he hits home runs. He literally goes up to the box and he stands in the box. And the pitch clock I mentioned before has not even phased him because he doesn't move. And he just looks at the pitcher saying, okay, what are you going to bring me? And there's not a more intimidating presence in that box. So I think his presence is huge. And Jose Urquidy, look, Jose Urquidy's really been somewhat underappreciated, I think, with this club. I know last year he didn't really get any chance to help in the postseason. This guy has 3 World Series wins. And that's not an easy accomplishment to do. And because he is a strike thrower, he is susceptible to give up the long ball. So in his rehab start and getting built back up, it would be key for him to start really using that swing and miss stuff that he does have the ability to have. I would love to see him come in, get about 5 or 6 strikeouts per game. If Urquidy's getting 5 or 6 strikeouts per game and limiting the runs on the
you're in good
scoreboard,
shape,
then you have a really, really good chance of someone like Jose Urquidy being a key contributor. But I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm excited. I get to see the guys here locally play, and hopefully we'll get to talk to Jose Urquidy after he throws. So his contribution is going to be key as well, because they need a veteran starter to help out these young guys throwing a lot of innings.
For sure, for sure. Now, we talked about the trade deadline. The biggest name getting thrown around is, will the Angels trade Shohei or Ohtani, or do they let him walk in the offseason? Now, I don't realistically believe that the Astros are going to make a move for him. But let's put on our GM cap for a second. If the Astros wanted to make a move to get Shohei Ohtani, what would it take?
It would take Chas McCormick, Kyle Tucker, Hunter Brown, Pedro Leon, Drew Gilbert. I mean,
You
you're
lost me at Kyle Tucker.
right. I just look. Here is the problem with getting Shohei Ohtani is because he is such an anomaly because he fills literally two needs for one team. The Angels have the ability to ask whatever they want. And if the Angels are foolish enough to just keep him and think and just assume he's going to sign in Anaheim, I think it's foolish. I think right now you have teams like no one's talking about the Orioles. Now, I don't even know if the Orioles would go out and try to get him, but the Orioles have the most really like guys out there. They've called up a ton of young stars, but they've got padding. The Rays and the Rangers got padding.
You bring up Tampa Bay. I heard somebody say this morning, Shohei probably wouldn't sign with Tampa Bay long term, but just for that 2-3 month rental.
Yes.
I mean, you would do anything for that.
If you've got draft capital and you've got an ability to pull, I mean, this would be the equivalent of bringing Randy Johnson to the Astros.
Correct.
Dang it, if Kevin Brown and the Padres, who we're still mad at, wouldn't have like ruined that plan, the Astros probably would have won the World Series that year. They were a very, very good team. And so this is an even bigger deal than that. Look, Shohei Ohtani, if he stays in Anaheim, which I think there's a high possibility for him to do that, it's tough to justify that because go look at their injury update on angels.com. They're basically missing everybody that's not named Shohei Ohtani. I mean, all the way down to Max Stassi. I mean, look, there's all these injuries they're dealing with. In a perfect world, the Angels need to let him go and then sign him in the offseason. So then they've got a rebuild package and they get Shohei back. But $500 million is going to be hard to fill unless you're an LA Dodgers or New York Yankees or a team like that.
Speaking of Shohei, he's going to be on the mound tonight against the Houston Astros. JP France will oppose him. Looking at this series this weekend, the Astros could make some ground up in the AL West with a strong showing out west. What are your thoughts on this series? What do the Astros need to do to overcome the Angels?
Well, I think tonight Shohei Ohtani has given up the long ball to the Astros, but he's gotten to where he's gotten into the double-digit strikeouts against them. They've got to attack him early, make sure he's not comfortable. And JP France on the mound has got to make sure he's missing his bat because it seems like he likes to hit home runs as well as strike people out. So I think the first game is definitely your toughest. Your second game, Reed Depner's 2-6. Reed Depner's has had some weird success against the Astros at times, but Framber Valdez is on the mound. And right now he's considered one of the top pitchers, if not the top pitcher in MLB with that 2.51 ERA. And then I think Javier is going to get back on track against Anderson on Sunday. Look, I'm looking for a sweep. I think a 3-game sweep is very doable. If they don't, they can win at least 2 of 3. I think you win this series and then you take care of your business. The Astros clearly can't worry about the Rangers because it seems like every time the Astros start winning, the Rangers start winning. Other than the last few games of the year where we were able to shrink that lead. So going into this half, the Rangers do have a tougher schedule, but I think in Anaheim, you're going to see the Astros come out with the series win pretty easily, 2-3, or even sweep this series.
Brett Chancey, host of Locked On Astros, joining us here on the Miguez Mindset. Brett, appreciate your time. Why don't you tell the folks where they can find Locked On Astros and what's coming up next for you guys?
Yeah, definitely. They can find us on YouTube. I mean, literally Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. I mean, it's free and easy to download and listen to us. We have got a lot of things coming up this half. We are going to be just examining where the Astros are and how far they can go. Hopefully, we'll be getting some more prospective player interviews from Sugarland. and hopefully bringing on other personalities throughout the Major League Baseball world. So make sure you stay tuned in. We do live shows just about every show, and we have special features. And go and check out our player interviews. We've interviewed 20 plus players in this organization. So we just love to get more followers, more listeners. And as always, go Stros.
Absolutely. Brett, appreciate your time, man.
Hey, thank you, Matt.
Brett Chancey joining us here on the Miguez Mindset. Make sure you subscribe to all of our social medias at ESPN_SWLA. We'll be back on Monday talking SEC Media Days, the official kickoff of the SEC football season. What can we expect from Brian Kelly, who takes the stand on Monday? What can we expect from the new coaches, Zach Arnett and Hugh Freeze? Much more coming your way next week, right here on the Miguez Mindset.